morning, everyone. It's this good weather, very good for meditation. Some people think this weather is not good. For us, best weather. Three, 딱 기생 둔장어마도 하면서 emotion 당 anxiety 든데 스트레스 축충부에 가둘라 아니 가르치고 메터를 깨져대 쉐레스로 다 들이 양자 근데 예외 컬러로 와다 지 강에 가려요나 와 먼저 메미진나라 강에 더든데 연구 레스타로 와 그 주단진 다 주단진 가셔니 수수 삼로단다 계산키니다 근데 삼로단다 노르베 왕게니 강에 연구래 강에 리카셔니 겨왕아망아만에 되어인죠 길래 되어던데 연구열 세상 디릭도서 먼저 유튜브에서 개요 말해서 디 말라 anxiety 뭐가 말라 panic 뭐가 nga메디 스트레스 된다다 근데 메시지를 두기 라요 말해서 그디 유단 진로 제대 연구를 했을 때 그러
So today, as we have been doing in weeks past, we've been looking at this thing around emotions and sometimes negative emotions such as anxiety and stress. We've been looking at all around that, how they come and so forth. And what we come to see is that the causes behind those problems that we have, those difficulties and stresses are different. Sometimes they are things that happen in this life, but also if we look at the fact that those problems just come up for us, that's a given. But then if we look deeper to the causes and conditions behind them, sometimes we can see we are feeling these difficulties because of some things we've done in the past that may have been mistaken. But yet there are these other deeper underlying causes that come from past lives that are related to the karmic things we did in the past. And although we may not wish to experience the result of those things, we may not think that, we want to experience them, anxiety, panic, stress, whatever, they don't come about through no cause. The fact that they come up, we have to deal with it. That's there.
dunangoma ta danda komja samba thangbo de samba hölöso yarwa 수수 samba de hölöso 아니 니와 delada 계속oma 가와도 제니로 ngo보드 가와도 주진 간의 중도 삼노다 레스로 다 드링은서 아니 서바 kom야로 다 디케 좀 모래서 봐 서바 kom야 서바세디 ngo보 가rel라이나 서바세도 내가 야니 돈이 가려이네 수수쌤 마투바체 베나 동에 다 베나다 지 앵자르 숙천보 요나 뒤에도 그 수수쌤 마투바체 야 수수 내나자든데 요나 내나자디 수수쌤 마투바체 내투베텔라 서바세 그래다
맞아. So in terms of, in the context of those things that come up, last week we looked at meditating in order, firstly, to relax the mind, just to relax the mind a little bit. And secondly, we tried to do more of an analysis to see Where in fact did the problems come from, these strong feelings and emotions? What were their causes? What were their conditions? To try and source them, recognize them. And thirdly, today, I'd like to look at patience and this ability in meditation to develop forbearance. So then we would ask, what is the quality of being patient, being a forbearing person? It is that whatever comes up, be it positive or negative, your mind doesn't get perturbed. Your mind doesn't get upset. It remains peaceful. So that means that if one has the conditions around anxiety, it doesn't disturb your state of mind. And secondly, sometimes when we get sick, we get these sicknesses, whatever, we are able to bear them without losing peace of mind.
지금은 서버라빈디 미지 컨트롤하니지라 서버 고미야로 전혀 셰데거라.
Yeah.
그데라 서버데라야 네 동에 단랭서 최랑에서 있어와 안내절에 치면이 bes어와 다 서버 숨쉬고라 되냐로.
Yeah.
아니 뇌절에 치면이 bes어와다 뒤용하란서 셰데레 미 컨트롤하니지 컨트롤하는데 데라야 서버 고미 세마도 거지 돼야디 다데라 뇌절에 치면이 bes어와 시고라.
Later.
다 동의 단랭그 서버서야 돼 오다 데레다 당한서 단다 미망부지 네 내나자 류지 내나자 유디 아니 류지 내나자 디칸라 양자 심데스네 심기 터버서 되고요 다디 딜라야 당랭chen 동의에서 당들람베이나 아니 딜라 동의 뇌라 동의 단랭서와 코드로브로드시 아니 철랑이 심기 서버서야 돼 당조 곰잡디 장가라 갈래도와 렐라와 요마르바 아니 갈래카 뇨브드체 육셰기도 딘데 많이 바체제 다 뮤트니야 자요 되죠 철릉이 생기서 최지도 렐라와 요마르 셈디 유엔데 포지티브 관나 당고스는 각보 여러와 대전 텔레야 두그리 잡지 아니 양자 베티 직파 데스 강에로 뇨브드로 차거나 딜레 동len체제 최 뮤트제 치투야죠라 다디 철릉이 생기서 와서야디 베나와디도레 다디 서버 숨쉬기 요레스 유낭바그로.
Normally we think about patience in the common sense is just that if someone gets angry at you or harms you, you are just patient with that. You're able to handle that. But patience actually has these other areas. So firstly, there's the patience in the face of harm, or when others do get angry and harm you. Secondly, there's a type of patience around general things, being able to bear the sufferings. And thirdly, patience with one's spiritual practice. So this first one of being patient in the face of harm is that when you have an aggressor that harms you in whatever way, you're able to not get upset in that, around those conditions. And secondly, this general type of forbearance, it's almost like tangdulen, means you're able to take it on, so that if you do in fact get sick in body or mind, you still don't lose your mental peace, and you can to an extent bear it. Now this third type of patience is with regards to one's Dharma practice. You know, cultivating a spiritual practice is not easy. Sometimes when we want to meditate, we feel sluggish and lazy, and we just give up and we think, oh, I'll just leave it. That's because to cultivate a positive state in terms of one's spiritual practice is not easy. That's not easy. That takes time. So you have to be very patient with that and put up with difficulties. For example, to develop these positive qualities of mind, when you're feeling sluggish, to be able to go through that and practice Tonglen, practice like taking and giving. So this is being patient with spiritual practice. So these three types of forbearance, patience.
다 단다디 수변냠len 디 간에 가서 양 뒤뉴스스 다 인자디나레 디버션이나레 다 저런스 뒤 망보지 스트롱 이모션 라고도 초 타보세요도 와 근데 초연을 요약하둘라 네 당보 내가 당보 그런 예배 내가 될라 디 강에 카레 예배나디 심마도 거지 대야라 수변냠len데 동의 단랭게 쇠바당 아니 동의 단랭게 쇠바 아니 단다 배진 동요 달린 게 서버디게 아니 오 양자다 매버 소투고 요래 가르서나 매버스나다 그 숙치를 마다야로
Okay.
하나도 류기 내나저러지요나 미지라 아니 대 양자 심게 양자 넘베스 이제 뒤유마지고 싶지 용거도 와 단다 만차데 대지 류기 동요들이야 먼저 내 당보 곰게 냠네 또고통보 저 냠네 또고통보 소래 냠뇽 숙청보 매나 직 수부게 베나 저거도나 아니 곰잠니 핑마랑도 칼라사고래 아니 지 류기 박외 나저러다 지 그리고 더 닝기 나저러던데나 맹강라도 이제 맨댕으로 미시디 곰잠니 핑마레스로 yandezo sewa shengure yang gongwe changmalo mewa sotuya 내가 해요 말해서 다든다 gomwe 가르쳐 가서는 셈기 세we 강에 줘라 간다 먼저 강에 망보 쉬어지 다딩사 mental 가르쳐지 라도 셈기 토게다 딩사 디여라다 셈기 고게다 딩사다 베나 뉴질랜드로 슝이나 셈기 강의기 돌아 배셔 땅거도 하다. 뭐마이나 더나요 말와. 뭐마이나 비즈니스다 된대가는 배셔 땅거를 메시지. 셈기 강의 써야기 돌아 배셔 땅 말와. 진짜 뉴질랜드 슝기 디 셈기 강의 기 써야기 돌아 프로젝트 오브 서지 배셔 몽부 땅거도 하네. 또 배셔 다나 아니 미드도 더나데 시로. 배셔 만다나 더나시다 지금도.
So then in terms of this second one, being able to bear difficulties, we're talking about being patient around mental problems such as strong emotions, anxiety, depression, when it comes up, and not being suffering, not being upset in that regard. So in terms of that, we have to know what is the nature of the mental situation of the emotion, to not let it increase. We're talking about the mental side. Now, on the physical side, sometimes when people get physically sick, what happens is the mind just makes it worse, except for being an experienced meditator. And experienced meditators can, to some extent, not suffer when they're physically in pain. For us, though, at the level of our physical body, if we're hungry, we have to eat. If we get a skin disease or a bone disease or a heart problem, we have to go and see someone about that. So in that sense, meditation might not be of that much benefit to stop our physical things. But really, coming back to this, being able to bear what's happening in the mind, these mental things, well, even in a kind of contemporary sense, New Zealand government puts a lot of money into the area of mental health. So we're talking about problems that are made by the mind. They perhaps didn't used to. Perhaps money just used to go into business. But now all of these projects around mental health are coming through. So that is why? Because the sole motivation there is to alleviate the mental problems that the people are going through. So somehow it seems now that because money is being poured into that, people are interested in mental health. That seems to be the way, no?
This
is like the first step when we get up to walk.
Anxiety da depression member
yeah
member that detail thing one 신경 신경 매력도
yeah
이내다 메로 직 되고다 그 닥스라든지 대제 심마 nhập 들어오세요든지 제 레버 토모토모로세요 니구야로다든지 대제 간다 내가 보게지 직 가서 그래 수부게 저여베다 직 테스트를 미시지기 멤버 과시니 신규도 노래어제제니 대샤고라 멤버 정보도죠 다딩원에 디 anxiety the depression 띵띵도죠 띵한저 하고 보면도 싫어 멤버 정보도죠 근데 라부도 없어요 나다 토뇨메데 ngoshim badinde inde lagudwa member thiringa mengan dois member khorangi nge anxiety da nge ngone gi kangi khari mbadi singimi dos khorangi nge tadi singi me lagdos ro
right
어디래 디 가래서는 셈나 되네 주에 나도 sonza 팅두기 member 게 레바 당 제견장 삼단도더라 제 케미컬 단 제견장 삼단도더미지 셈그 거기 계제 코로나 매와단다 신들어라 제가 다디 삼노사바직 단에서 왕아라서 수수 네버든데 이네 member 도사디 anxiety 당 panic 당 depression 된데 유나 딩원에 심단 되어야 멤버들들 도고를 메시지기 레버단 되어야 멤버들들 도나 닝단 되어야 멤버들들 도나 요 말했지 드너레스 도자디 심단 되어야 멤버들들 도고레스다로
It is also the fact that for some that are going through mental worries or anxieties, depressions, whatever, they might see a doctor around that. Well, in some cases, if the doctor was really honest, they would say, I don't really know how to solve these mental problems and anxieties, if they're really honest. But somehow other doctors yet might give a prescription or medications for that person to either calm down the mind, but very much on the physical level of how, on the physical level of how it affects the brain and or the sleep. So what we're seeing here is a very kind of temporal body connect with relieving these mental things. It's very temporal. So doctors might be able to prescribe a temporal medication for the people, but if they're really honest, they would say, I don't in fact know how to get rid of these anxieties or stresses. In fact, I've met people that have been to doctors who've actually said, I really don't know how to help you with this mental problem. So in that sense, then what are we looking at? We're looking at the fact that these underlying mental problems are sourced in the mind, not just at the level of the matter in the brain or the physical body where the prescription is given on that level. Really what's happening is because if the doctor doesn't know the workings of the mind, how can they help on that level? Really, we should be going to see someone who's kind of like a mind expert, isn't it? Not really like a brain and heart expert.
다든다도 제단디 다다 낭배 슝근안에 된데로 다 곰잡네. 로. 아니 펜도 다 서버곰이야. 드링은서 서버곰이야 돼. 오늘 펜도 전부여서 로.
This is where Buddha Dharma comes in. If we look at the meditations around being a patient person, a forbearing person, that's what we should reflect.
다 빼나로 와서 동보동에 달래고 서로 샤샤나. 간데스 쇼래로. 서버 간데스 공부래다. 간데스 공부래로.
First question, how does one, like, in a sense, take on these difficulties? How is one able to handle it and bear it?
빼나 닝게 나자로지나. 닝게 나자로지요로. 아니 다 닝게 나자디 나랑 닝게 나자 탄다니 여바디 다 직전에 기승기니도 칼라사다노 아랑이 삼노다다. 로. 아니 삼노다다. 닝당 차식 나자도 심란 대화식 전부도 와. 제단디 나랑이 삼노다다다. 에너지 숙부기로 단질 때네 총어레스. 제단디 다디 나랑게 직규진 나마 세월 때네 총에 데부지레스로. 지 삼노담베이나 디 수수스베 데부직 손디 당고 셈데 징암라처럼 만들어야다. 아니 동해처럼 만들어야 펜도도. 아니 하버드 지금 레준데기 저와당 겨왕아지나 다 그냥 세델랑아라게 근데 독자틴데 내가 제메들레 겨와 마마틴데래야 예 파차와치베 데부틴데 인게레 인도장가라 당랑게 레 님베 데부치 매버 차송 민송 와 삼나 안에 동에 당들렘 봤어야 되와 고 나랑 그세베 let the do with thing around young red. That came into thing around young jure was Susu Susu color shimu Susu sour, sour. Susu pizza, the shimu mena, Susu sour. Or the rest, she do. And go near down the sugar document or.
So then it would be helpful to think when one goes through any type of difficulty and in that sense is trying to bear what one is going through. Let's say you have a heart condition, a heart problem. Could be the direct cause, could be something you ate the previous day, but often when we get heart difficulties, there's a direct correlation with the way we're thinking, our minds and our thoughts. And of course, it's the same with blood pressure. These things do have a relationship to the way we physically move and stuff like the bodily elements, but underlying that, there are these conditions of the way we think around heart issues and so forth. So then what we're starting to do is think about our place in terms of the responsibility one has in terms of the cause and experiencing the effect. So one starts to think that, well, just knowing that there's a cause there, one has a hand in being patient with the result. Here we're talking about causality, and once again, you don't want to experience the difficulties, but somehow you have a responsibility in terms of the cause and in terms of reducing the suffering around those problems. Now, there's yet another deeper level that might not be just yesterday or whatever, and that is that on the law of causality, one can think that now I'm experiencing these negative conditions because of something I did in the past in terms of karma, and that now that these things are rightening, that's good because I won't have to experience those sufferings again in the future. The results of these non-virtues are being exhausted. And in a sense, if there's a pizza that's not delicious, you made the ingredients, so you have to eat it now.
And sometimes some people are thinking, I have depression because my father has, my grandparents has. Excuse the yatanshida generation this huge mango shujado. All depression yours, all black pressure yours. Parasana, near power yours, near power yours, no more your lagda.
Yeah.
You don't the door your was so good, you know. The Jumzin some of them. Jumzin Yanda was the
We hear a lot of that, don't we? I've got depression, I've got blood pressure because my father had it and my grandparents had it. Well, there is some kind of physical genetic relationship, but we can't put it all on that.
Before thinking, I have fever, you know, and my father, lots of people were talking like that. Maybe this come from my father. I thought, and I asked my sister and my big brother, do you have fever? They said, I don't have. If their generation need my sister and my brother need have fever, you know. The logic mean do right?
Yeah.
Logic mean do.
Yeah.
Ngala yor, nge some of the cause on that nge power use and ngala yor is raw. Not the cause on. The power the yor, the happy body yor. Nge ajal gazeti, usual gazeti, nge omal, consul mean do. Magical do. And generation, you know, consul gora, any power chigore, amachigora.
Yeah.
The Jumzin, the Jumzin Doma song.
That logic didn't seem to work there because I got problems with hay fever and I know that my father did. So then I thought, well, is there something in that? So I asked my sister and brother, did you get hay fever? And none of them had it. So then that idea of it coming necessarily through generation or through the family, that didn't seem to hold up in my case.
That things are modern sound is a gom jabje, the genetics or the Juadangu, the Purubdungudarwa.
Yeah.
And that is Sebudwa. That Nala Junior, family yours, Lapsamindu Dati, Lapsamindu.
But now modern scientists are even seeing the benefits in a study sense of meditation. So those kind of outs that we had before of being able to put something on the parents, that doesn't hold up anymore so well.
이 임바레다 베나 디 해피와 디 곰 야부자당 칼라스단 스테스 터나잖아. 용어도가. 아니 곰 상상라 태워서로체 야마 망고도 전화네야 딜 출래용도 고 천자도디.
So